Good afternoon. Tom Ginn, Elevate Your Profits. Hey, today I'm bringing Mark in here in a moment, but today I'm really excited to bring in our guest today, and I'll introduce him in a moment. But I'm going to bring Mark in, and we'll just chat for a couple minutes and tell everybody a little bit about why we do what we're doing and the purpose of Elevate Your Profits. So, Mark, are you ready to come in, bud? There you are.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I reappeared.
You reappeared. Well, I know this Monday for a lot of people, but for me, it's just another day to go out and influence somebody to improve their lives. So, how'd your day go, bud?
Oh, it went great. It's always a magnificent Monday. It's great to start the week off and, shake off the cobwebs from the weekend. Had a great weekend. I told you what I did earlier. Like I had to be a maniac and do like 6 games of baseball. That was kind of intense, getting home about 9 o'clock, but, jumped right in it today. And,
Well, speaking of baseball, you got something big happening in that Atlanta
Well,
area.
yeah. I mean, I hope more than hope they should. I'm looking forward to the Braves winning. I won't get into the political infrastructure of our infamous city, but there was a thing called an all-star game. I'll leave it alone. But we are looking forward to Atlanta, winning. And it reminds me, this team in particular, Tom, back in, I'm dating myself, when they got into the playoffs in 1991 and into the series, it was really cool to see how the sports town here in the Peach State, hot Atlanta, came together, and that was at Fulton County. And I'll never forget those playoff games and series games. I got to see them. And this team is just like that. Man, they are like, they never say never. They keep grinding. They just keep cranking. And, we got a great team, and I'm really looking for some great things happening out there for these guys. This city's due to have another world champion for sure.
Yeah. Hey, AB is on. He's in Atlanta. Yeah. He maybe he can get together with you. So, yeah. Hi, AB. Great jumping on.
Downtown Atlanta, AB. Is that where you're at?
He's in the Atlanta area. That's what he says. Thanks for jumping on, AB. Mark, before we bring in our guest, I'll be introducing our guest here in a minute, but a little bit about Elevate Your Profits. We're about helping that person maybe is looking to go into business for themselves, what it's going to take from the mindset and the processes that need to go through, all those things. Those people are already in business. Solopreneurs have small businesses. We bring guests in to that have gone through the challenges of starting a business, have a track record of success, share that wisdom and knowledge and processes that got them there. So we're all about helping individuals be more successful, no matter where they are in walk in business or if they desire to be in business. Anything you'd like to say before I introduce our guest?
No, I think you as always, you hit the nail on the proverbial head, and that's what this is about. This whole platform that we bring on different people, and they share their insight as to what they're doing and how they do it, and we learn from everybody that's out here. I'm looking at all these names appearing here to the right who's showing up. The master himself, Joe Ingram.
Joe Ingram, California.
Yes.
Master. Joe,
he's a sales genius. Joe is sales genius. So, Joe, I hope you didn't, and forgive my southeastern rant here. I know you're on the West Coast there, but I'm sorry. I got a root for the Braves. I live here, and that was the Dodgers to me are a great organization. The fact that they beat them, that was not an easy task. That was a solid ball club they beat. No doubt about it.
And AB says he's in Midtown. I think I have no idea what that means.
I know where that's at. Okay. Yes, I do.
Well, no further ado. I'm going to bring in somebody I've known. I'm not quite sure how long I've known Bud. 4 or 5 years. I met Bud at a Toastmaster event, Toastmaster Sales, and that's where I met Bud. And since that time, we've stayed connected. He's followed me in my coaching, and followed him and what he's doing and promoting and supporting him. But I'm going to be bringing in somebody I consider a friend, a colleague, an influencer, somebody that makes a difference in individuals and businesses' lives. So I'm going to introduce Bud Matthews. Hey, good afternoon, Bud.
Good afternoon, Tom and Mark.
Hey, man, were your ears burning back there? I mean, we were talking about baseball, Atlanta, and all that other fun stuff.
It's
So
all good. It's great to have baseball again, especially to see the fans and the cheering. And that was sure an exciting series with the Dodgers.
yes,
And I am
absolutely.
for the Braves. They did start in Milwaukee, and that's where I'm based out of. So
That is true.
there's a
That is
connection.
true. Yep. Yes.
So
Hank Aaron himself played in Milwaukee. There, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a pleasure to be with you, gentlemen. I'm very humbled and honored to be here this evening with both of you.
Well, thank you.
Well, Bud, why don't you share a little bit, where you're from, a little bit about yourself, your family, hobbies, your path to where you are, and we're just going to free flow because I think we can get a lot of essence of who you are and what you do based just on having conversations. So it's all yours, my friend.
That'll be great. Well, let me talk to where I am today, and I'll kind of back into this to where I started. But I work as a consultant for Ascend Performance, and that is my company. And what we do is we work with small to medium-sized enterprises in helping them put a sales infrastructure in place. We stay within the sales channel only. So I use content and support from Sales Xceleration, and that is an outsourced VP of sales firm that's based out of Indianapolis, Indiana. So I work with them hand in hand. I actually own a franchise up here in the Milwaukee area, part of Sales Xceleration, which allows me to use their content and a lot of the great materials that they provide. So we work with small to medium-sized enterprises. I've been doing that for almost 2 years. And prior to that, I spent 38 years in corporate America. And I worked for 2 Fortune 500 companies. I started my career with Hormel Foods out of Austin, Minnesota. I spent 17 years with Hormel. I moved 7 times all across the country and taking a family of 3 children and my wife and moving them all along in those various positions in all different types of markets. Learned a lot. A great organization, a great company. They taught me a lot about selling. Taught me a lot about marketing too, because I had some marketing positions within the organization. Then I was recruited away by Smithfield Foods, and I came to Milwaukee, Wisconsin from Austin, Minnesota. And I spent the next 21 years with Smithfield in senior leadership, working with Patrick Cudahy, one of their companies, Armor Eckridge, John Morrell, 814 Americas, Crocus Foods, all those various companies. Smithfield was a company of companies. And I was part of the deli division. I was part of the sales and marketing group. And I was also part of an acquisition team where I actually helped them buy a couple of those companies and got heavily involved in Animex in Poland when Smithfield bought Animex. So I had a lot of diverse experience in the sales and marketing from a domestic and even on an international perspective. But the corporate world was really a blessing and a curse for me. It was a blessing because it brought my family and myself a lot of gifts and a lot of wealth and things that we never would have had. But it was a curse because I missed a lot, and I traveled all the time. I was gone every week. In fact, we lived in Brookfield, Wisconsin, and I don't think I knew my neighbors. And I lived in that home for 21 years. You go to the office on a Monday and you come home on a Thursday or a Friday, and the last thing you want to do is you just want to relax and spend time with your family and your kids. So, but I decided when Smithfield was moving all of those companies to the East Coast, and there might have been an opportunity for me to go to the East Coast, but with a cabin in the North Woods of Wisconsin and 3 grandchildren, just in the town neighboring to where we're at. If I was to move to the East Coast, I was moving by myself. My wife was not going to join me. So I decided to take a package, and I left Smithfield almost 2 years ago. And I started to just kind of get reset, take some time. I was going to take a couple of months and just kind of figure out what I wanted to do next. I was 61 years old. I still have a lot of gas in the tank, and I thought, there's got to be a second career or a twilight career. I always wanted to work for myself, and I think anybody in corporate America always dreams about what it would be to work for yourself when you grind those hours and hours and hours. So I knew I wanted to start my own company, but then I had some of my old customers call me, and they would ask me, they said, "Bud, can you come in and work with our sales team? Can you work with our sales leader? Can you provide some training here? Can you help the procurement department and help us find a film supplier? Well, we need better raw materials." I was just about doing all different types of things for a couple of 3 good past customers that I had. But I decided, I think I can make a living doing this, and this is something that I really enjoy. So I started my business. I learned very quickly when I was working with sales organizations of other companies that the old command and control mindset that I used to have when I came out of the office in my own environment and said, "Okay, guys, this is what we need to do and this is how to do it." That didn't work when you're coaching and you're mentoring other organizations. So very quickly, I saw that I was devoid of a skill set. So I went back to school. At 61 years old, I enrolled at the University of Wisconsin-Madison in their certified professional coaching program. And that was a 9-month program that was fairly intense. You had 150 hours of classroom, and you had to have 100 hours of coaching to get your certification through UW-Madison. So I went through that. I learned a lot of things, mostly about myself, that I had never knew or understood before. And you really have to understand you before you can help others in a true coaching environment. And then I went on through the International Coaching Federation to get my ACC certification. So I have a certification through the International Coaching, which is the gold standard of coaching throughout the world for the most part. So now I'm a certified coach, and it works hand in hand with my sales consulting, where I can use those sales skills. And then I also work in the talent management side. I do some work with a company out of Minneapolis called Maximum Potential. And I used to buy their assessments for my sales team and my management teams when I worked for Smithfield, and we used them on a regular basis. And Bill Schultz, the owner of Maximum Potential, when I retired from Smithfield, he called and said, "Bud, these assessments and these tools very well. You'd be very good as a distributor for us, and I think you would enjoy it." And he was right. So I do some of that in the talent management side. So my company has 3 legs to it. So it's got a talent management leg where we sell the assessments. It's got the sales consulting through Sales Xceleration, and then I do some executive coaching through my certified professional coaching degree. So that's where I'm at today. I love every minute of it. I enjoy it. I'm very busy and active, and it's just nice to give back after having God provided so much to where I'm at today.
But I got a question for you. You've worked in the Fortune 500 realm, and now you're working at that smaller enterprise, that small organization. Coming from that big environment down to the small environment, is there any difference with the challenges that a small organization has to a big organization? Is there any significant differences or different types of challenges?
Well, there's plenty of challenges, and I think it's more difficult for a small to medium-sized enterprise than it is for a larger corporation. And I say that in the fact that I work with a lot of CEOs, owners, entrepreneurs that start these companies, and they run everything. So they have to be good at not only running the sales organization, but the HR department and the operations side in the leadership side. So they've got all these irons in the fire. It's just very difficult for them to grow and to scale that business when you have so many responsibilities. When you're in corporate America, normally you have a defined skill path that you're in, a defined job with job responsibilities and so forth. And you know, it's a little more defined. I think what I find very interesting is the things that I took for granted in corporate America when it comes to job descriptions and KPIs and sales training, sales infrastructure, sales strategy, sales plans. A lot of that is non-existent within small to medium-sized enterprises. And helping them put those tools in place really makes a difference in their operation very quickly. Because normally they call me in when sales are stagnant, when revenue kind of reaches a plateau. They've got a couple of salespeople that they really don't understand what they're doing. Their behavior is not conducive to the betterment of the company. You know, they're usually that means the compensation plan is not aligned properly and behavior is not working the right way. So there's lots of differences between the two, and I think it's very easy for me to adapt to that environment. Yeah, because I get emotionally attached to it. I've already run the race. I don't need to work. My wife keeps thinking I should be up in the Northwoods fishing, but I just love making a difference in a lot of these smaller companies and helping them achieve what their dream has been when you watch them work 60, 70, 80 hours a week trying to get that accomplished.
Mark, if you got anything, jump in. But
Oh yeah, I do have one thing, here, you're talking about coaching and when you approach these companies, just out of curiosity, Bud, what do you find is one of your challenges, or I should say their challenges, when you talk to them about how you can accelerate their process, whether it's on the sales side, customer service side, assessment side? Do you ever hear things like, we've done that in the past, or we have our own internal training, when you offer this? How do you approach that? Because, or people say, yeah, we've done things like that. And, we've got,
Work.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they had a negative experience. And some people do, they, they'll hit you with that. And I'm not complaining. It's just a reality. And it's a matter of I always kid, and excuse me, I'm going to go to sports. And the one guy that talks about this, and anybody from Alabama will know this, Nick Saban talks about a process, and it's a day in and day out thing. It's all those little things you do or don't do that separates you from your competitor, how you engage with customers, how your customers engage with their clients when you approach it that way. Do you run into some obstacles along the way when you come at them, with
the time,
your
Mark.
content? Yeah.
I think that's a common. Normally, Mark, when I get brought in, it's through a referral, and usually the house is on fire when I come in
Right.
within the sales organization. And a lot of times they'll tell you, we tried that, we did this, it didn't work, we had a sales coach before, but really peeling back and asking curious questions and really digging deeper to try to understand what their goal is, what their vision is, and then what those obstacles are preventing them from being there. And I think you hit the nail right on the head. It's all about process and having a solid documented process in place that's repeatable, that works. And I think that's usually where I start, right when I enter an organization, is with the sales process. And with training, and you mentioned a little bit of training, I like to do an assessment of the sales organization to really understand what their skill set is before you even know what to train them on. So
Right.
you see what those results are and where some of the deficiency might be, if it's in prospecting, if it's in influencing and convincing, if it's in asking questions or handling objections or whatever those weaknesses are. That's where I try to start too. But in working with those organizations, I think building trust is by asking the right questions, and then doing some storytelling that you've had success with other companies and other organizations and the difference you can make. And you just ask the simple question, what would it feel like if you could meet your sales number each and every year? If you could make your revenue goal, what would that look like? What would that feel? You know?
You said something very critical,
It's
but
a
there
good
is
point.
feel. You know, I think that's something a lot of people don't relate to is what is the outcome? What's that experience going to feel like? What is it going to look like? But I want to go back to something you said in the beginning in this is, you know, the difference between the big organizations, they got all the departments that specialize in everything, so they have a much easier path to carve, right? So,
Yep.
but that entrepreneur, small business, see my hat here, CEO? They are nothing more, a small business person is nothing more than a short order cook. Flipping the burger here, shaking the fries, getting the Coke, cutting the tomatoes, putting out fires. That's what a CEO is in small business, like you said. They're trying to do it. They got all the responsibilities of opening the door in the morning, closing it up, and cleaning the bathrooms and everything in between, right? So it's not an easy thing to be an entrepreneur,
No,
but it's well worth it though.
it's very rewarding. And
Yeah.
I see that. But a lot of times, you know, who do they talk to? There's nobody that they can talk with. And everybody needs a coach. And I believe in that philosophy. And I know, Tom, you're a great business coach, and I've respected the things that you've done and achieved, and Mark on your training side. So I'm a big proponent of coaching. And even coaching is, you know, it's just talking about the business, even at that level, to give them something to talk about. And that's really how you start to build that trust and confidence. But I try to stay in the sales arena. I try not to be a total business coach. I know what I know. I know what I've done well. I can coach. I've been exposed to all parts of an organization. I can be part of that, but I really like to stay within the sales side.
But I got a question. You know, some of my training and how I focus and help people. You look at these organizations, and I've seen it, but how clear are owners on their vision, and how are they communicating that vision in the culture of their business? Do you see that as a weakness in a lot of business? They may have a vision, but they don't know how to put it across to their team. Do you
They
see
don't,
that?
they don't know how to communicate it. So everybody understands what the action should be and what the goals of the company is. I see it all the time. Some companies are better at it than others, but having a clear vision for the organization that everybody is bought into, that everybody understands, that everybody has a part of, I think makes it well worth the effort by the entire organization. And many times, you know, everybody does their own thing. The owner really is not a good communicator. They don't have regular meetings. I know on the sales side, I always recommend a sales meeting once a week. And sometimes a call in or a one on one with your sales rep, no matter how many you have, you should have 15, 20 minutes besides that group meeting. You should have a couple of meetings with them, check in meetings, just to make sure that they're achieving what they need to achieve. But the total vision for the organization, Tom, to your point, whether that's on the accounting side, the finance side, the human relations side, or wherever it means, making sure everybody understands what the total goal is. And you know, that's another good place to start too. But that's more for you business coaches than it is for the sales coach.
Yeah. And, you know, you being in sales, and Mark is in sales too. What is, you know, you assess talent, you know, aptitude and personal characteristics. There's thing anybody can adapt to say. I don't believe anybody cannot be a great salesperson, but just understanding their personality and that. But what do you think the biggest obstacle that a salesperson encounters um, to be an achiever, somebody that wants to excel and to a different level? What do you think the biggest challenge that you've seen with salespeople, whether in the big corporate world or the small enterprise? What do you see with salespeople?
Well, I think when you look at successful salespeople, and it's going to be about 15 to 20% of your sales organization are going to be doing 80% of your business. You know, it's the old parental rule. Whatever that is, you see that everywhere you go on the sales side. And when you look at that 20%, that 15 to 20% that are successful, and you watch them, they have a documented process that they do and use. And they also have a way of self-developing and learning as they go. And sometimes as you mentioned, you and I are part of Sales Masters. That's how we met. That's a specialty club of Toastmasters. It's like a mastermind for sales professionals. It's all about sales in a Toastmaster environment. And sometimes it just behooves me when I look around and I'm thinking, for $100 a year, somebody could come and get this type of experience and knowledge by investing 90 minutes in themselves a month. How could you not do that? But sales professionals, you know, they sometimes just don't do the training. They don't put the work in that they can to be successful. And there's two types of successful salespeople. There's one that have that DNA, that charisma that we see in salespeople, but they still have to work hard to be good and be successful in their profession. And then there's the ones that don't have that DNA, but if they put the work in and they work hard, they can be successful too. So I agree with you, Tom. You can be a successful person, a successful sales professional, but it's that development that you have to put in the work and reading books and going to seminars and learning from some of the experienced people in your office, learning from your boss, learning from your district manager or whoever it may be that can be a mentor to you. There's so many ways to grow and develop yourself within the industry or within the profession that I just don't see that extra effort sometimes with a lot of salespeople. And then they wonder why they're not moving ahead.
Mark, you have anything? Because I have a question I want to ask about it.
You know, you mentioned about coaching. I always like to ask this one. What do you think, if you had to pinpoint it down when you say coach? If you're thinking about a word picture, or what comes to mind about a good coach to you, Bud? What do you think a good coach is? And it's not a right or wrong answer. I'm just would like to know.
Well, the thing I learned really quick, Mark, is that there's a distinct difference between a coach, a mentor, and a consultant. And they're all three different disciplines. And a consultant will tell you and come in and tell you what's wrong with your business. A mentor will tell you how they can help you fix it. And a coach will draw out of you the strength and the courage that you have within to fix it yourself. So I think coaching is really looking at an individual and helping them achieve the goals that they want to achieve. It's really pulling that out of them. And that's what a true coach is. And there's so many out there that, you know, that talk about coaching that maybe don't have that training and that background that you really need to be a good coach. So I really look for people that are part of the ICF or that have gone through a very established work arrangement where they've gotten trained and they know what coaching is all about.
You know, I'm going to just interject something that I've come to find out through my study. And, you know, you made a very clear distinction. There's a difference between a coach, a mentor, and a consultant. There's three different levels of disciplines and focus they can bring and help solve problems, basically, but they're all different. And sometimes people hear coach and they don't know what it is. I say, have you ever had any coaching? And they immediately go, yeah, I've had a business consultant talk to me about processes. That's not coaching. That's a consultant, right? Identifying, taking a look at the picture and showing where the parts are broken and show you how to fix them, right? So a lot of people get those terminologies mixed up, and that's a challenge I have. Yeah, I've had a lot of coaching, processes, those type of things, and they wonder why they didn't see any significant results. They may have seen some small, but I studied this, and Tony Robbins did a great analysis through research. The companies that do training, traditional training, they see a spike of maybe a 10 or 12% improvement in that first 90 days through that training process. And I go, well, great. But then they see it drop down to a baseline, maybe a 2% growth over the long term. But what they found out, when you take traditional training and learning and you couple it with behavior training, they see performance go up 40, 60, 80%, depending what it is. Then it's permanent. What's your thought on tying behavior and learning and coupling those together? Have you had much thought on that?
Well, it's all about behavior, Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It's
Yep.
all about behavior and really understanding what we do and why we do it, and then what's the right thing to do, and what are some of the habits that we've got to get rid of and we've got to improve on. So what you said is spot on to what I've been taught in my coaching classes at UW-Madison and what I've learned out there in the field, but it is distinctly different. You've really got to look at things from a different perspective when you're coaching. And it can be very rewarding for the coachee too, to have a good solid coach that he can talk to or she can talk to about some of the challenges they face. And then the coach can help them get to a position beyond where they're stuck. And that's what coaching is all about, is helping people get unstuck. The mentoring side and the consulting side, I think, is important too, especially working with small to medium-sized enterprises. But you make a distinction when you're doing it. And I always like to say, I'm going to put my mentoring hat on, or my consulting cap on right now, and talk to you about what I learned when I was in your position years ago, and I had something similar to that. So, it's just a fascinating profession, and I truly believe everybody needs a coach. I have a coach today, and I never had one before. I really never really understood it. I spent 38 years in corporate America. I have an MBA. I went through good schools. I was educated, but I really never understood what coaching and mentoring and consulting was all about. I understood the mentoring and consulting side, but not the coaching side. And I think that's something that is really becoming very popular today, that a lot of leaders in the business world can benefit from by having a good coach.
Bud, you've coached and mentored and, responsible for hundreds of people in organizations to drive an organization to a different level or hit targets. As a salesperson, you look at two individuals, identical credentials, identical talents, right? All the right personal profiles on that. One is succeeding and one isn't. What do you think the difference is? And I'll throw my thought in after you make your cut. So you got everything equal, same product, same everything. Why is one succeeding and the other isn't?
Well, I mean, I'll make the assumption that their skill sets are fairly similar, and that you've got the hunters and you've got the farmers. And everybody likes having hunters on their team, but some people need farmers also. But what distinctly separates that, I think there's an amount of passion that a person possesses, and the type of DNA that they have in them, that they want to succeed and they're going to succeed no matter what. Selling is a very challenging profession. Yes. And it can be disappointing, and you've got to have the ability to take that passion and overcome those ups and downs and those ebbs and flows, and that fear that you have of being rejected on your sales call. I mean, that's the fear that every sales professional goes through. So the thicker the skin that you may be, the more successful I think you're going to be. You just can't take selling personal. You take it as a challenge, and you learn and you grow from it. So I would say, to answer your question, Tom, I would put it in the passion category, having that DNA and that passion within.
They're why they're doing it just more than what's this going to provide them in an end result? Just besides taking care of your family and that, there's a lot of things in that piece. But this is something from personal experience. I'm speaking from my space and what I've also seen in training salespeople and reflecting back. I've hired hundreds of people when I had my financial services company and had maybe 40 people that really stuck and did something significant. So it was that 10% or 15% type people, right? The 20%. But what I come to understand is the deep conscious, subconscious beliefs about what sales are. They may have a negative contents at a subconscious level. They don't have a good relationship, and it shows. Or they don't have a strong relationship with money, because we are asking people for what? Exchange of a product or service for money. And even though they're selling somebody else's product or service, like selling meats or deli products or whatever, but what I found, if they don't have a good relationship with money and worthiness to ask for more than they make, you think about this, you're asking a company, if somebody's making decisions, put 200,000 on the line, and he's looking, I'm making 50. If they don't have a good relationship with their value, do they value themselves as 200,000 or 50,000? If they value themselves at 50, they can't get the $200,000 check. Have you seen that, or do you think that's
well, I think you're spot on, Tom. I can tell you from personal experience. I went to a high school that graduated 115 seniors in my senior year, and I was 110 out of 115. So I was at the bottom end of it. And I can tell you that I lost my father when I was 16 years old, and I had a very dysfunctional life early on, where school really wasn't important to me. And I thought I was going to end up at the corner bar and the bar stool back in Illinois, in central Illinois, with my buddies, and I'd work construction, and that would be my lifestyle. Well, I had a coach. His name was Vince McMahon, and he came to my high school when I was a senior, and he said to me that spring when I was getting ready to graduate, he said, "Buddy," he said, "you're a good football player. You could really play good football, but if you come to my junior college, I will help you get your grades up, where if you put in the work and you work hard enough, you might be able to get an athletic scholarship to a 4-year college, and you can change your life." And at that day, I committed to Vince, and I went to that school, and I did exactly what he asked me to do. I took remedial classes to learn how to read and to take math skills and double up at a junior college. And I got my grades up. And I did get that 4-year athletic scholarship to a 4-year college and graduated. And that's how I started my career with Hormel Foods. So I told myself when I went through all of that, when I was in my teenage years, Tom, that I will not live this way. And I will be successful no matter what I do. And I did that after I had somebody to help me, though. It took Vince to help me see the light and to get me out of that. But it's the passion that comes in. And my philosophy always was, Tom, that I would outwork anybody that was with me. I mean, I would read. I took night classes for years. I'm taking a class right now. I'm taking a class at Northwestern right now in sales management. I've never stopped taking courses, never stopped learning the profession and what you really need to do to be successful in life. And finance is part of it. You learn with that as you go along. But I took personal finance classes. They don't teach that anymore. And I think that I'm a big Dave Ramsey disciple. And I had a good friend of mine that turned me on to Dave Ramsey back in 1988, 87, 88, somewhere in that. And I've been listening to Dave forever, and I follow his principles. And I've read all of his books, and it's made a difference in my life.
Yeah, two things I would say just there is that Dave Ramsey teaches, and it applies whether it's be personal finances or anything else. Success is only 20% knowledge, 80% behavior. And because there's people that know what to do, but why aren't they doing it? That's bottom line, this behavior. But you said something about, your story, that a coach believed in you. And I think us being coaches and being that influence and believe in other people, because that's what we're seeking. A lot of
Yeah,
people don't have people believe in them. They don't have that right environment, I just say the right environment for success, right? And so our environment has a lot to do. Then somebody came along your life and says, I believe in Bud. And I think as a coach or a mentor or a consultant, I think if we can do that effectively, that we believe in you, you've got all the talents and skills, but are you willing to do the work, right? I
that's
believe in you. And
yeah,
then be there with them.
yeah.
So you made a great point there that somebody came in your life that believed in Bud. Otherwise, Bud might be sitting in that bar today, right?
I would be at that corner stool. And I can tell you, my buddies are probably right there waiting for me. But that was 40 years, 45 years ago. That was a long time ago.
Hey, I just want to acknowledge some people that have just come in. This is Troy Aberley. He's up in Alberta, Canada. He's a big Bob Proctor coach. He's a phenomenal guy. His son is 12 years old. I'm just going to plug his son here. He's been getting coaching and mentoring, understanding self-image and belief systems and believe beyond that. And his son is Luke both his children are
Right.
phenomenal. Luke and his other son, phenomenal young men. Luke, I tell you, at 12 years old, 12-year entrepreneur, he does product reviews from a child's or young person's perspective for Yeti and camping gears, and he does
Yeah.
right. Mark, is that
Oh
young
yeah.
man incredible?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
He has an innate ability to do, but it really comes from the influence that you get. So Troy, I just want to compliment you. You're an awesome coach, influencer, and motivator, but you got two of the most incredible young people that I have ever met. I mean, we had them on today. You wouldn't know they're 12. They're wise, wise souls. So Troy, thanks for jumping on. I just want to acknowledge Troy. So
That's a great story.
yeah. And we have, if you're a parent out there, believe in your kids. Don't hold their dreams down. They have more capability than we conditionally been taught, right? Our culture is squashed our ability to live to our fullest potential. We follow what the dictates of culture says what success is, right? Would you agree?
No doubt about it, Tom.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And
Mark, I got a couple more questions for Bud. So
well,
Mark,
I'm
go
just
ahead.
enjoying listening. I think one of the things you talked about is, and you're asking these questions like, why do people struggle with this or that? And I hate to be, say starting from the root, but I think it all transpires out of your home environment. If you're fortunate enough to have two parents that believe in you and advocate that you can do it, I mean, to me that makes a big time difference. Not that it can't be done later, but I like Luke, man, when I look at Troy, what he's doing for his sons, it's that guy's gonna like, you'll probably see him all over the stratosphere on these virtual tools, what he's doing right now. But I think some people, it's about belief. They just don't believe in themselves because for years they've been told what they can't do. There's no way you're going to do this. And you are in a sense a product of your environment, but you can break out of that shell. I mean, I'm not saying you can't, but it is not easy for some. If you've been in a real negative situation, and I don't want to get into people's stories because we all have one, but it's something you got to constantly work at. And you touched on it because you're still learning. You're still, yourself. But you are still taking classes, whatever it is, whether it's, virtually or you go back to school. I admire people that are consistently doing that. And that's the one thing I've picked up as far as a secret. If there's a secret out there or secret sauce, is you're never too good to learn from someone, and you just got to keep an open mind. You know, you never have arrived. It's just, you know, that's the way I look at it. I mean, I screw up every day, and, you know, after a call or something, I'll probably tougher on myself and say, man, you could have done this, that, thus, so. But that's how you learn, you know. So when you get in a similar situation, you know, it doesn't rock your world. And
there's so many things today, Mark, that you can learn from, and there's some great podcasts out there.
Right. They're free too. I mean, you were talking about going back, but there are so many things. I mean, my goodness, what's available today. And I guess this kind of goes back to what's going on in our world today. When I hear people say, well, I can't get a job, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. I'm like scratching my head saying, okay, I know what I went through 11 years ago when we had that little financial hiccup where they weren't hiring, but I can tell you truthfully that there are companies that are screaming they want to hire people. And I talked to a gentleman last week that he told me, and I won't mention the company or the person, but it goes like this. They may show up for 5 days or 2 weeks and hey, I'm done. I don't want to do this, because they've been spoiled with dollars and cents they've been accumulating by sitting on the sidelines, or they just don't want to put in the effort and work at it. Yeah. And I heard that from a hiring manager. I was like, wow. You know, and that just kind of threw me back with what's going on in today's world. But these things are happening.
Yeah. You know, Bud, I just want to compliment what you're saying, Dave, and I think hopefully this is touching somebody out. They share it out there. Is success leaves clues, and just find people that are succeeding in whatever career attitude or profession you're seeking, and then become a student of them. Yeah. Go ask them for the help. They'd be glad to mentor, right? I haven't found anybody that's succeeding that has that heart to help you succeed. Reach out. And you mentioned something, reading. You know, you never stop studying. And, you know, this is a sad statistic. The average person that graduates from high school only reads one book after graduation from high school. One. A college grad may read one book a year. The high performers read 4 to 5 books a month. And I put that out there with people, and they say, how do they do that? Well, there's a very simple technique that I can train anybody how to read 4 books a month. I read 3 to 5 books a month. And people say, how do you do it? And I'm not sitting down hours reading a book cover to cover, but I've learned a very simple technique. But that you're a living demonstration that follow a path of a coach and mentor and a consultant and do what they do. Right. It's just that simple.
Yeah. Surround yourself with winners too, Tom. I used to tell that to my kids all the time. And that was on the refrigerator for many years. And then the other thing, it takes no extra talent to get up 20 minutes early. And you want to read and you want to catch up or listen to a podcast or whatever it might be to sharpen the saw, or meditate or have a routine early in the morning. It takes no talent to get up early to get your day started.
You know, like Jim Rohn says, you know, you could look around the people you hang with, you'll find out you have the exact same net worth. Yeah. You want to change your net worth, and that's not just what's in your bank account and your assets. Your net worth is who you are as you grow, and just start hanging around with different thinkers. Yeah. Because somebody that grew up in the Rockefellers household has a different perspective of what money and accumulation assets and how they view the world than somebody that grows up in abject poverty. Would you agree?
No question. You know,
just change your circle.
Yeah. The thing too that I've discovered late in life is the power of networking and meeting new people and getting out in different environments. And, you know, and sometimes that sounds challenging for people. You know, I'm not an extrovert. I have a hard time meeting people, but break that barrier and do it and challenge yourself to do it. Go to those events and meet folks, and that's where you find that entrepreneurial spirit, and that's where you learn about other things that you might be interested in, and that's how you grow and you develop. Continue to challenge yourself in every aspect of that.
Yeah.
it's a fun business world out there. There's so much opportunity, but it starts with passion, drive, and determination, like we talked about, and believing in yourself and believing that no matter what happens, I can overcome this and I can be successful. And success is defined in different ways too. I mean, it's for me, I'm successful today because I'm fulfilled. I have the opportunity to meet folks like you and work with people in this industry, and the clients that I work with, I really enjoy, and I'm dedicated to helping them make a difference in their business. You know, that's what I do it for. But there's lots of other folks out there that are frustrated. You know, everybody's leaving their jobs right now, and sometimes, you know, it's just time to, you know, buckle up and suck it up and get involved and make a difference in the organization, and good things will come. I always believed in that. Work hard, and you know, that's kind of, there isn't a substitute for hard work. There just isn't. There's no shortcuts in life, and there's plenty of opportunity out there for everyone if they put their mind to it to get it done.
Yeah. And people always say, well, I don't have the time. But, you know, Tom Ginn has no more hours than Mark or you. We're all have the same 24 hours to deal with. And it's just a matter of establishing priorities and work our life around our vision, our goals. It's like Dr. Miles Monroe, somebody I studied quite a bit. And I encourage anybody out there to get his book, The Power of Vision. And it makes life simple. People say, Tom, how do you do 4 to 5 different things? Well, number one, they all match up with my why, my purpose. Different things, but I could just shift lanes like we talked off screen earlier. But it's really, you know, we're just set priorities and what do you really want in life? And life becomes simple when you have a vision and a why. It's not complicated.
Yeah.
It's not complicated. It doesn't have to be.
That's a good book to read too, Tom. Why? I mean, know your why.
That's a book I studied quite a bit. I'm doing my G-Force on those lessons and helping people better understand. It's, you know, in business, we hear it all. You said networking, right? So you go to a networking event, whether it be on Zoom or whether it be in purpose, people talking about what they do and how they do it and their credentials and their experience and all this stuff. There's no differentiation. People don't do business. What separates you being a CPA? You all learn the same thing.
Yeah.
But why do you do it? That will draw. That's if you read Apple and Simon Sinek, when you understand they position their why way before what they do, you get people's attention at an emotional level, right? Would you agree? You've studied Simon quite a bit, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've got his book right over here on the shelf. Yep. One of my books. And I do like to read myself too, Tom. He's got some very good lessons. He's got some really good YouTubes too. And if you don't have time, getting into a good YouTube, a Simon Sinek YouTube, you'll learn a lot. 20, 30 minutes.
Well, we got somebody
here from
for jumping on. Sorry about interrupting here.
Patrick's here. Yeah.
But Patrick, thanks for jumping in and share this out. You know, Pat's up in Canada as well. He's an influencer and an author. And so, Patrick, I appreciate you coming on tonight and share this out. And just want to acknowledge Pat. Thanks for coming in. But I know we're getting here, you know, to the top of the hour. But Mark, do you have anything else you want to ask?
I just want to say that I think Bud emulates this statement. And it's something I've always liked. I'm not going to tell you where it came from. You're going to have to look it up. But if you Google it, you'll figure it out. Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. That's it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. That's a great statement. Yeah.
And I think if you approach it that way, like if you mentioned people are having problems, I think if you look at it like, and that's kind of been my approach here recently, like this is why I'm calling you. I'm not trying to sell you something, you know. Yeah. There is something of value, and if you can see the value, great. And you know, it may mean not right now, Mark or Bud or Tom, but yes, maybe later on, and that's cool, you know.
Yeah. That's a good way to approach it.
Right.
Patrick put up there, sounds like Robert Schuller. Is that correct?
No, it's not. Should I tell him who it is?
You can.
The guy that takes claim to this, and I won't, but it's Muhammad Ali, a very controversial figure. But
Yeah.
when I say that respectfully, I grew up during that era, and there was a guy. I just felt like there's a guy that was teaching us all the time, in and outside the ring. I know some people may disagree with me, but he's, yeah, Patrick says the greatest of all time. Yeah, absolutely.
He was.
Yep.
To what you just said there, Mark, you want more in life, not just in the bank account or more ornaments in life. I call it. That's the cars,
Right.
the houses, and all that stuff, the ornaments of life. Serve
Right.
more. You want more relationships, serve more. You want stronger
Right.
relationship, serve more. You want
Right.
more money in your bank, serve more. And the
Right.
more you serve, the universe will called the universe will deliver because you're
Right.
serving. You know, that's what we're here to do. Any comment there, Bud?
Well, part of my philosophy is to service, not sell. And if I
There you
have
go.
the mindset that I have when I approach my clients is to help them, not sell them. And that normally works out 99.9% of the time in helping them get to where they want to be. Service, don't sell.
Right.
Patrick just made a comment. When all else fails, relationships are the heavy lifters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah. The other part of all of this too is we're all people and we all interact.
Yep.
And no matter what situation you're in, just being you, be vulnerable, be open, be you, be honest, and that's the only approach to take in life. There's uh, it's so simple, and
Yes.
relationships and working with clients too. I mean, they see right through the salesy or the person that really wants to come to try to help them get through the challenge that they're facing. And it's all just part of it. It's just being you and being vulnerable and being straightforward and helping people make a difference in their lives. And that's what
Right.
it's about. Yeah.
Bud, we've got your information up here that people could reach out to you. That's your website and your email. So we just want to make sure that, anybody that's out there want to know what Bud does, he'd be glad to chat with you, I'm sure. So
Yeah, good. I'd love to hear from you. I would welcome an opportunity to visit if you've got something on your mind and you want to talk about it. I'd love to. And you can catch me through my email or through my website. And I'm usually very accessible. I wouldn't say 24/7. My wife would say that. So it's really been a pleasure being with you, gentlemen. I really salute you for the work that you do and the insights you provide. I kind of pinch myself for not being a part of this earlier and at least watching your broadcast because there's some great information and some really good insights that you provide that I'm sure your listeners really pick up on and benefit from.
Bud,
well,
we just want to say
I thank you for your wisdom, knowledge, and your example. I mean,
you educated us tonight, all of us, and
Yeah.
that's the beauty of this platform. That's what we want. And we don't have all the answers,
None of us do,
No.
but together we find them.
Well, we're past the top of the hour, and and I know Mark has you still have a commitment on Monday nights, Mark.
Yeah, he's gonna mess with me. Since we're talking about getting outside of your comfort zone and your why, started doing this dance thing. My wife and I are doing this on Mondays, and it's kind of been fun. And you meet a really cool group of people, and I think we're going to finish up the waltz tonight, if I'm not mistaken. But it's been really kind of cool. They make you switch partners. It's like public speaking. So, you can't be, what's the word I'm looking for? self-doubting yourself or worrying what people are going to think. And one time Gene and I, we went to a dance because they have scheduled dances and stuff. And I said, do you think they're going to know if you went to the left or right or did this step? Let's just have fun with it, and don't worry about what other people think. And, and somebody said, that's it. That's why you're here to learn and have fun with it, and you'll get better. I mean, there's some freaks in there that have been in there doing it for 10, 15 years, and but it's just something we wanted to do.
I can't wait, Mark, until you do the cha-cha, because I'm going to have you do the cha-cha here.
Oh my goodness. This is a country western type approach to dance, but they implement other things. And it's not all country either, but you learn like East Coast swing, West Coast swing, cha-cha, waltz. So it's been interesting. Yeah. Look at Patrick. Okay, yeah, all right. and yeah, but it's something that I think it's good to do. Like when you get up and have to give a speech or it'll test your mettle. I mean, it'll mess with your head if you allow it, because the instructors are excellent. I mean, and they make it look so easy, but you got to break it down. And what you're talking about here, what you offer is we all have a starting point, and you build on that and create that process, customize it, and before you know it, you'll be doing it.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Well, Bud,
for that. So
another thing I always like to is too many people in business and sales are too serious. Gotta have some fun, man.
That's it.
Gotta laugh at yourself. You gotta bring some humor to your conversations. Otherwise, life gets boring if you're too serious. So
I will leave you with this thought. When I call people, I'll say, "Hey, Bud, this is Mark Gassert, and I know you've been waiting to talk to me today." And they're going, "Who the hell is this guy?" Hey, you want to talk to me? I know you do, man. And they're like, I'm in the middle of man, you're so serious. Yeah. I actually had a guy laugh. I mean, that's just how I've been approaching it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be a little bit loose on, we all have a tendency to get so, oh man, I got to get, no, you don't have to get anything. Just have fun with it and it'll happen. It's okay.
Just be you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but in parting, I'm going to put you in the back room here, and then Mark and I will do our final dialogue. But in parting, any final thoughts or anything you want to communicate with the audience out there to the audience?
Well, I guess, again, I just want to thank both of you for the opportunity to be with you this afternoon, this evening. And it was a real pleasure. I've learned a lot from you, and I enjoyed our conversation. I think, my advice or my insight to the folks that are listening is to, there's really no substitute for hard work, and to continue to grow and develop and train yourself each and every day. And the sky is the limit. Set your goals and set your vision, and you can achieve it. And usually you do it with a coach too. So I highly recommend having a good coach or a good mentor along your side. And it's a wonderful world out there in the business world. And I wish everyone the best of luck in achieving everything that they desire to achieve, and to be remarkable in all they do. Yeah.
Well, Bud, thank you very much. That's a great parting. And Ernest just came on from Lubbock, Texas. He says, better late than never.
Thank you for sharing, and thanks for sharing. Yeah,
share it out. You can catch it all on the replay. So we appreciate you jumping here, Ernest. So another awesome person in our audience today. The influencers doing some significant benefit in out there helping people grow and be the best they can in business and those type of things. So well, Bud, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on, to call you a friend as well. We've had many conversations in the past, and I'm excited to see you where you're at, going through the coaching, and you're going to make a big influence on a lot of individuals and organizations moving forward. So It's an honor to call you a friend and a colleague. So
Thank you, Tom. Thank
we're going to
Mark.
put you enjoy
Hey,
those contracted.
I got to
blue
hook up
M&Ms,
with you
okay?
now. We'll have to share some stories here, but
I'd love to, Mark.
yeah.
We'll have you back if you like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go Braves. Yep.
Yeah.
Go
Thank
Braves.
you. All right.
Hold tight. Hold tight. Well, we had some. Thanks, Ernest, for jumping
He said,
on.
"Hey, man," he said he was napping. Okay. All right. Yeah. Love it.
All right. So is any closing thoughts on your side, Mark?
No, I learned a lot just listening to what Bud had to share with us, his story, and very impressive. Going back to school, and I guess we're all creatures of habit, but it's about finding your why, and it's not always about dollars and cents, although that's important. I'm not saying it's not. And you talked about people not reading. That just blows me away that people don't read, but some people don't. And everybody makes choices, or some people actually do listen to audiobook, which I think is cool as well. If you're doing something, I always try and do that. And there's so many things out there. I was thinking about this today that that are free, and it just blows me away that people don't take advantage of them. You know, books, tapes. I mean, you could go through the whole gamut of any industry, and if you use Mother Google, you will find it. You will find somebody you can plug into, which you were talking about, as well as Bud. And find a mentor. They're all out there.
Guess
Hey,
who
there's
else?
Ted, Legal Beagle.
Hey, Ted, I hope you're doing well. I'm going to come down and see you in Chicago next week. Visit with you. Keep up the healing process. Do what the doctors say, and you'll be out of there soon, my friend. But in closing, I would just like to encourage everybody to reach out. You mentioned reading and YouTubes and all those things. They all bring value.
Right.
But what I found out, if you don't have somebody to help you through the process and put things into action, nothing happens. Changes don't happen. Behaviors don't change without certain types of action. Coaches hold you accountable. A lot of the books that we have, and I have hundreds of books that I've read up until I started getting coaching. They were just shelf help collecting dust.
Right.
What are you doing to make those books come to life in your life? And it goes beyond just reading and listening tapes. It really, when you look at the top performers in the world, find a mentor and a coach that can guide you to where you want to go. So,
well, thank you, Joe. Joe said he appreciates me, and that's not a joke. Joe, I do listen to your podcast, by the way. It's good. And I encourage everybody to listen to it. It's a different perspective, and I really appreciate where you and the value you bring.
yeah.
So that helps
thanks
me.
for being
I
on here
like I
tonight.
said, I'm learning from everybody out here,
Yeah.
and
And Joe knows how to bring humor to the conversation.
Oh, absolutely, he does.
Humor guy in sales. So, Bud, you got to check him out someday. I'll get you his link and stuff. Okay.
We need to have Joe on here.
That is right. We got to get
Joe
on.
I'm gonna actually send you something. We need to talk anyway, because you're good at what you do, man. We need to have fun.
Yeah, I appreciate all he does on Thursday nights in our mastermind with Grow Life Academy. But Mark, I think we're complete.
Oh, very much so. My cup is full.
Yeah, but we got to make sure we make an announcement. Who's our guest next week?
Next week.
Oh, I'm doing a recorded interview that's going to be, we'll replay it next Monday night. Is Lynn Eckenbaum, an entrepreneur, a mother. She's created some product that's very unique. I won't get into it. I'll start promoting, but next Monday, Mark and I will come on and we'll have our dialogue, but we'll do a replay of the interview of Lynn Eckenbaum.
Hashtag
Amazing
replay.
woman that's shaking up, that mother at home, go create a business for a hobby
Yeah.
that turned into a mega business. It'll blow your mind. So we can't wait to interview her next week. And I appreciate Andrea Poss, who referred me to her. She's a public relation person out of New York, and she loves sending me people that have an influence out there. So turn on your notifications. So Andrea, thanks for introducing me to Lynn. With that, Mark, anything else, bud?
That's it. I think we're finito. My cup is full. And on that note, I often record my podcast wearing my V-neck trousers. There he goes. He's at it again. That's
There he
Joe.
is. There's the humor. I love it. You're awesome, Joe. Thanks. And then Ted, he's going to listen to the replay. Everybody have a great night. It's with gratitude. We're
Thank
out.
you, guys.